Welcome, welcome. My name is Yvonne Cunningham, and I'm going to be your hostess for this evening. I'm very excited to be with you tonight with Dr. Phillips. So welcome, David. I know you're coming all the way from Arizona tonight, usually Florida, but tonight is Arizona. So welcome, everyone. Welcome, David. And what I'd like to do then is I'm just going to read his biography here. So if you guys would just like to put your pencils down and have a listen here. Dr. Phillips graduated from Harvard University in 1984, where he earned academic honors and was an all-American swimmer. After graduation, he spent time in a research lab at Duke University, investigating methods for the early detection of pancreatic cancer. He received his medical degree from Wright State University School of Medicine, where he finished in the top 1% of his class and was elected to the prestigious National Academic Alpha Omega Alpha Medical Honor Society. After practicing as a board-certified emergency physician, he came to the realization that many of the diseases he was treating were also very preventable by adopting a healthy lifestyle. As a result, Dr. Phillips used both his academic knowledge and athletic background and shifted his focus to the field of preventative medicine. He has written numerous articles on the important role that nutrition plays in overall health and particularly athletic performance. Dr. Phillips has also competed in triathlons over the last several years, winning numerous regional as well as national masters competitions, including the St. Croix the St. Croix Ironman, qualifying him to compete in the Super Bowl of Ironman competitions, the Ironman World Championships in Hawaii. Woohoo! Dr. Phillips lectures internationally to thousands, sharing with passion what he has learned about living a healthy lifestyle to people from all walks of life, from weekend warriors to professional athletes. He and his wife, Heidi, also an accomplished Ironman triathlete, are the featured hosts of the popular video, One Simple Change. They're also the proud parents of 3 athletic boys, 2 of which have received individual doctorates in physical therapy and theology, and 1 who is a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. Congratulations, David. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. What an accolade here. Congratulations. Welcome, welcome. Go ahead, David.
Great. Thanks, Yvonne. I appreciate it. Hello, my Canadian friends. I miss you guys so much. And Zoom is okay, but in person is better, and that's gonna start happening. But until then, this is how we communicate, and I really do miss you guys a lot, honestly. But things are starting to open up, and I've been traveling through the States down here a lot, so the rooms are starting to fill up a little bit more and more, and things are starting to pick up the way they used to be before COVID. So I'm excited that you guys had me on here, Ron and Mark. So I'm going to dive right into this because you guys know I have a lot of slides and pictures. But the title of this talk, some of you may have heard, and many of you have probably not heard, but it's called Apple or Scalpel, the Lifestyle Disease Connection, or Stuff They Don't Teach You in Med School. And it's kind of an edgy title. And the reason I did that is because it's been my experience over the last 15 to 20 years of traveling around lecturing internationally, that there's just this huge disconnect between lifestyle, what we eat and how we move, and all these chronic disease conditions, from cardiovascular disease to cancer. And, particularly as medical students, we're really not taught about prevention. We're taught about diseases, and you look for a disease in somebody. And if you find it, you either cut it out or you treat it with medications. And there's obviously a place for that. But, I think you guys would agree. And even the Canadian system to the United States and North America, we really, while we have the best medical systems in the entire world, I think you guys would agree with me that our medical systems are kind of broken. There are systems that are designed to take care of you when you're really, really ill. And so the whole impetus behind this lecture is to empower you with the knowledge and hopefully the inspiration that you can take charge of your health. No matter what your health journey looks like tonight, you can take charge of your health going forward, and perhaps avoid undergoing an operation due to a disease, avoiding the scalpel, or perhaps, take less medications you already get. That's completely possible. And you'll get that through this lecture tonight. So the general outline we're going to follow here tonight is that we're going to talk about, the connection between lifestyle and disease. And then I'm going to spend a large amount of time tonight talking about supplementation, and in particular, whole food supplementation with fruit and berry and veggie powder concentrates and capsules. And why as a physician now with almost 20 years of working knowledge of the power of nutrition, why I consider it mandatory that we should be supplementing our diets with whole food concentrates. And that's for a couple of reasons. Number one, at least here in the States, and I'm sure it's the same in Canada, it was in January of this year, the CDC came out with a statement that 90% of Americans, and I'm sure that's again applicable to Canadians, 90% do not get 1 or 2 servings of veggies a day. So, we're just lacking getting produce into our bodies. So that's one reason for supplementation. The other one is that even if you eat lots of produce or you're a vegan, there was a study that came out of Stanford about 6 years ago that they found that even with good crop rotation, we're losing a lot of the nutrients in the soil that is then not translated into that fruit or veggie and then not into our body. So we're losing the nutrient value of the produce over the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years of growing crops. And so that's another reason to supplement our diets with concentrated whole food fruit and veggie powders. And so we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about the research behind that because research is kind of my jam. And then I'm just going to finish up by telling you my story, how I got to do what I'm doing, why it's very different than what I was trained to do as a physician. And then I'm just going to relate a couple of very personal stories to you that hopefully will inspire you to make some changes in your life that perhaps will get you on the healthy path or keep you on the path for health. And I'm going to put up this slide. This is a new slide that I've stuck in here, but it's kind of the elephant in the room. This is a very large study that was published in 2021. And they looked at, there was a huge body of evidence and data that they looked at that would pertain to COVID mortality, morbidity, and mortality. And they found out when they parsed through all these data, and you can see what it says, that the authors demonstrated that the combined intake of veggies and fruits prevents and reduces the incidence and mortality rates of COVID-19. Wow. I think we all kind of knew that because, if you take care of your immune system, I mean, the bodies that we have here are amazing machines, but you have to put the right nutrition in it for it to work. And this is a statement that I want you to think about as we kind of go through this lecture, because again, we kind of knew this, but now the data is foolproof. And who knows if we're going to go through another pandemic, but we know how to prepare our bodies. And that's part of what's in, kind of into this lecture. And so I always start off by talking about the Okinawan population because, they're long considered to be some of the healthiest individuals in the world. They live an average lifespan of at least 81 years. And I think now this study is almost 60 years into this study. And what the researchers have found out is only about 1/3 of their longevity could be attributed to their genetics or their genes. But it's their healthy lifestyle that accounts for about 2/3 of their life expectancy, with the key to healthy aging is maintaining healthy lifelong weight through diet and exercise. But what I think is significant about this entire study is that it really does prove that our lifestyle can trump our genetic inheritance. We don't have to be victims of the genes that we inherited from our parents and their parents and their parents. Simply by engaging in a healthy lifestyle, you can actually turn good genes on and bad genes off. And what's really cool is that that's not only good just for you, but they've actually shown that you can pass those genetic traits up to 2 to 3 generations beyond you. So think about this, particularly, people who are in childbearing age, that simply by engaging in a healthy lifestyle today, you can potentially impact your family's past generations of chronic disease conditions, perhaps eradicating them for your future family's generations to come. We're hardwired to our DNA. That's what you have to know. Our DNA we're very hardwired to that. You can't change your DNA, but what lifestyle has control over are the switches on the outside of your DNA called epigenetic switches that lifestyle can modify, turning them on and off. And those switches will dictate whether that gene gets turned on or off. And, I always tell people, and this will tie into a study here at the end, that just because great grandma had breast cancer and grandma had breast cancer and mom had breast cancer does not mean that you're destined to get that cancer, right? Because we know through the study of something called epigenetics that exercising and eating properly, again, will turn good genes on and bad genes off. So, when we talk about lifestyle, the 2 big cornerstones of leading a healthy lifestyle are exercising and eating properly. And when I talk about exercising, I'm just talking about movement. just getting up and walking. And these are some stats here that just in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, they're finding out that sedentary behavior is not good. And basically, I found that if you sit 4 or more hours consecutively on a fairly regular basis, that is equivalent to the health detrimental effects of smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. Believe it or not, I did not know that. So sedentary behavior is kind of the new smoking of this generation. You know, it increases, as you can see, cardiovascular disease by 125%. And it increases risk from death from any cause, and this is the scary part, by up to 50%. So, you know, movement is key. And there was a really great study, came right smack out of Canada, and it was a very impactful study. And what they did is they looked at, and I think it was between 50 and 60 randomized controlled trial studies on lifestyle and its effect on breast cancer. And when the researchers parsed through thousands of pages of data, this is one of the biggest findings that they found in this big study was, quote, of all the lifestyle factors, physical activity or exercise has the most robust effect on breast cancer outcomes, whether preventing breast cancer in the first place or preventing it from occurring if you've already had it. So, you know, a couple of slides back, there was a banner that said exercise is medicine. Well, that is absolutely true. And it, you know, you don't have to do Ironman competitions to be healthy, and that's kind of crazy anyway. But we're just talking about getting up and moving. And, you know, if you're somebody who is stuck at a desk job, the key is to just get up and move every hour or two, just get up, walking down the hallways. It's key. Just don't sit all the time. The movement is key. Yeah, it's kind of one of my favorite slides. You can't compete with what you eat, right? Remember that you cannot out-exercise a bad diet. You know, if you go to the gym and then you go refuel your body at McDonald's or something, you probably wasted a big chunk of your time at the gym, because what you put in here absolutely complements what you do as far as an exercise program. So when we talk about eating healthy, what are we talking about? Well, we've kind of heard this, you know, since we were little kids, and it's so true. Plants, fruits and veggies. And the more fruits and veggies that you put onto your plate, not only the healthier you're going to be, but the better you're actually going to feel. It's been very well documented. And that's not to say, you know, everybody's got to be a vegan and go around eating bark off of trees all day, right? I mean, I don't do that, but we just know that the more plants you put on your plate, the better off you're going to be. And it's that combination of diets that are loaded up with plants combined with an exercise program that has a profound influence on a lot of the chronic disease conditions that you hear about, that you read about, that perhaps afflict you or, you know, people that you know. And I've highlighted some of these in red because they tend to be more common than others. And perhaps you or people you know are afflicted by things like asthma, you know, or cancer or heart disease, you know, diabetes, MS, the arthritises. Well, those diseases in red, but actually all of these chronic disease conditions have one common denominator that links them all together. And that's something called oxidative stress. And so I just want to spend a few minutes explaining what that is to you, because it's kind of, you know, cutting edge stuff in medicine today. So when we talk about oxidative stress, we're talking about the stress that oxygen places on your body. And while we need oxygen, they can act as a double-edged sword. So similar to when you cut an apple in half and you leave that apple exposed to oxygen or room air, what happens to the apple over a period of time? Well, you can see it becomes brown. It becomes oxidized. It ages. You can think of it as aging quicker. Well, a parallel process is actually going on inside of our bodies as we take in oxygen. While we need oxygen, it can act as a double-edged sword in producing these things called free radicals that can accelerate aging and can accelerate disease processes. Another way of looking at oxidative stress is comparing it to a car engine. You know, a car engine utilizes gasoline to combust and make a usable form of energy to make that car run. But out of that external combustion comes a toxic byproduct in the form of exhaust. Well, our body's engines are called mitochondria. And it's these ovoid organelles that exist inside the cells of our bodies. These are the powerhouses of our body. Okay, this is where energy from the food that you eat, combined with the oxygen that you breathe in, goes into making a usable form of energy to make your body run. And that's something called ATP. But this is not an airtight process. And not all of those molecules are utilized in the production of energy in the form of ATP. And so what happens is that you end up with a spillover effect of these highly charged reactive oxygen species, otherwise known as free radicals. And these free radicals, if they're not effectively neutralized, can very quickly escape from the mitochondria. And then they begin to do damage to our nearby cells silently, without us actually feeling it. And the research has been very clear that free radicals can attack the membranes that surround our cells and tissues. They can attack the proteins inside of our bodies, which is key if you're an athlete. And I'll be getting into the athlete talk here in a little bit. Free radicals can attack our DNA, our genetic material. And real importantly, whether you're just getting up and going to work, all the way up to the elite athlete, cumulatively over a period of time, if these free radicals are not effectively neutralized, they'll begin to attack the very mitochondria that form them. And the reason that's important is because mitochondria do not have the ability to effectively repair themselves from that kind of damage, similar to other cells inside of our bodies. And so cumulative damage to your mitochondria will begin to shut down your mitochondria. And the reason that's important, folks, is because those are your energy producers, right? And loss of energy production is going to affect you. Again, whether you're just getting up and going to work all the way up to the elite athlete. And the research shows that this kind of damage that you really don't feel can take years, if not decades, to actually manifest itself in actual disease processes. And again, I mean, how many people do you know that are too tired to perform even the most basic tasks of daily life? You wake up at 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning with energy, and by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, game over. And so, neutralizing this byproduct of our daily metabolism is important to do so. And we can do so because we all come equipped with, we are all born with this complex internal enzymatic and non-enzymatic cascade that acts as a frontline defense system in attempting to reduce, this free radical, this oxidative stress. But it's important to understand that even though God gave us a system that attempts to neutralize these free radicals, the research is very clear that the system that we're born with cannot function by itself. That the system that we're born with, unfortunately, will eventually fail unless that system is fortified. And we fortify that system, well, it's through our diets, but it's specifically diets that are rich in fruits and veggies, and specifically the rainbow of colors, the reds, the greens, the purples, the yellows. Because inside of those colorful pigments exist these very powerful plant chemicals called phytonutrients. And what I mean by phytonutrients is basically plant-based nutrition. It's thousands and thousands of powerful antioxidant substances found in all the fruits and veggies. And this is the key. All those plant nutrients are working together synergistically in very small amounts to be extremely powerful in the human body. So we know we need to load up our plates with plants. And the question is how many? And based on the most current epidemiological studies, it's now recommended that we should be consuming 7 to 13 servings of fruits and veggies every day. The serving is, roughly the size of your fist. And I scroll up that every day. It's not just a couple of days a week that you get that amount. That is every single day for the rest of your life. You have to fuel that internal system that we're born with. And some of you know I have a whole nother talk I do just for athletes. And I pulled a couple of slides over because they were pretty impactful. And this is based on a formula. I can't remember the exact formula, but it has to do with BMI and kilocalorie output during exercise and a couple of other factors. But individuals who approximate 60 to 90 minutes or more of physical activity cumulatively within a 24-hour window, this is how many fruits and veggies you should be eating every single day. That's quite a task. So good luck with that one, right? So skip the 16 to 18. Go back to the minimum 7 to 13 servings. Do you and your family get 7 to 13 servings of fruits and veggies every single day? Are they picked vine ripened, so they're the most nutrient dense? And are they in the rainbow of colors? That is just as important. The researchers are finding out that the variety of colors is just as important as the quantity. And, I've, over the years, almost 20 years of speaking internationally, I've spoken in front of, thousands of vegans, thousands of vegetarians, thousands of people who juice. And while all that is healthy living, take, for instance, people who juice. People who juice, while juicing is healthy, people who juice, though, typically juice the same 4, 5, 6, 7 things. It's the variety, the other colors, that's just as important as the quantity. So unless you get that quality and that quantity in your diet every single day for almost every single one of us, me included, at one point or another, there is going to exist some form of a gap in our nutrition. And the traditional way we've been bridging that nutritional gap has been through the consumption of all these synthetic, isolated, laboratory-made vitamins and our multivitamins that we see everywhere in counters today. But very clearly, if you've been following the research just within the last 10 years, multiple large-scale studies looking at whether taking multivitamins and vitamin supplements, whether they would have an impact in reducing all these chronic disease conditions. Well, the data from these large-scale studies that were started 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years ago, the data from those studies has started to roll in, and it is telling us quite a different story. In many instances, vitamin supplements have no impact in human physiology. And in some instances, like the SELECT study, they actually do more harm than good, if you can believe that. And that's true. And in fact, neither the American Heart Association nor the American Institute for Cancer Research here recommend vitamin supplements to reduce cardiovascular disease or cancer. Okay, what they do recommend is right there on their websites, eat more fruits and veggies, because eating more fruits and veggies will decrease your potential risk for cardiovascular disease. Eating more fruits and veggies will decrease your potential risk for cancer. And I pulled another slide over from my athlete talk because I've been talking about this for years, but this is a very well-designed study published a few years ago, where they are finding out that athletes that are taking these synthetic vitamin supplements like vitamin C, like Emergency, well, they're finding out that these synthetic vitamin supplements are mechanistically blocking the adaptive health responses you should be getting from exercise, ultimately leading to a decrease in training efficiency. So vitamin supplementation is blunting the adaptive health responses that you normally get that make you stronger, more fit, and healthier when you exercise. Quite a shock. And I wish I had known this. You'll hear my story here in a little bit at the end as it relates to this. I didn't know this information because we didn't have this information, many, many years ago. So the bottom line is, nature knows best, right? What we have in nature is far superior to any man-made vitamin supplement produced in laboratories today. So, the bottom line is, based on all the research that we need to know today, it makes a whole heck of a lot more sense to bridge the nutritional gap that almost all of us have with whole raw food sources that contain your vitamins and minerals. But back up a second. Many people, me included, think that, that we eat fruits and veggies because we know they're healthy for us. And a lot of people think that it's just because of the compact, large amounts of vitamins and minerals that's in that fruit or veggie. No. What's really healthy, what confers health to your body is all the other stuff that you get in the skin, the pulp of the fruit or veggie, all the plant chemicals, the carotenoids, the polyphenols, the flavonoids. Those are what confer health to your body, not necessarily vitamins and minerals. So again, it makes sense to bridge the gap with food versus what I call no food, which are these synthetic isolates that, again, short of a deficiency disease, our bodies simply don't know what to do with, other than secrete it out of the body or store it in fat if it's a fat soluble vitamin. So just as a gym, our fitness facility provides equipment for us to get physically fit. There's a product on the market today that I literally thousands of healthcare providers around the world recommend to get nutritionally fit or fit at the cellular level. And the product that I've been taking and recommending is Juice Plus Essentials. And the reason for that is because the large body of research. And again, research is kind of my jam. I'm just kind of a geek with that. But this product, so superior to any other nutritional product on the market today, because it is the most thoroughly researched brand name nutritional product available today in the world, bar none, nothing compared to it. So let's just talk about the research for a little bit. This product is backed by years and years and years of independent third-party research, which means that the company provides the product to the research institution, and then they step back and they wait for the result of that study, either good or bad results. So the product is removed from the auspices or the potential bias of a company doing research on its own product. It's taken to a third-party institution to remove that inherent bias. And then when the study is done, it's submitted to peer review journals around this perimeter. These journals have a peer review board. I sat on one for a few years. They're typically made up of MDs, PhDs, and other scientists. And you basically scrutinize that study before you accept it for publication. You look at the methodology of the study, you look at the design of the study. And if it was done properly, you accept it and you publish it in your journal. If not, you turf it back out to the company to be redone properly. So that is another layer of scrutiny the company puts the product through, which is a peer review screening. And a great majority of these studies that are published adhere to what's called gold standard research, which is randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies That's top tier research. That's the kind of research that I look for in my medical journals for legitimacy. And because there are journals out there that you can actually buy your way into getting published. You can just cut them a big fat check and they'll publish your study. I think you guys would agree with me that that's not legitimate publishable research. You can't buy your way into a journal. And that's what's important, because I'll tell you right now, there's absolutely no way you can buy your way into getting published in the top pediatric journal in this country. You cannot buy your way into getting published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. You can't buy your way into getting published in Medicine and Science and Sports and Exercise, the top sports medicine journal in the world. This company does top quality research at top quality institutions and deserves the right to be accepted for publication based on methodology, design, and results. So to date, the company has 27, now going on 28 years of research, over 40 published studies in the key is in peer review journals for publication. It's been studied in 8 countries and 4 continents around the world at institutions like Yale, and we'll get a Harvard one in there one of these days, hopefully. But institutions like Yale, Vanderbilt, Medical University of Graz, MD Anderson Cancer Center, Nemours Children's Clinic. I mean, the list goes on. And I know these institutions, right? These are highly reputable research institutions doing research on this product. That is, you guys, that is unheard of in the nutritional supplement industry, far and away. And that's what separates this product from everything on the market today. So this is the variety. This is the rainbow of color I'm getting into. It's 30 different fruits, veggies, and berries in capsules. And that is the variety I'm talking about. And I challenge you to get that rainbow of color in your diet every single day. And yes, because they're capsules and they come in a bottle, it's not a vitamin supplement. Okay. If you all listening to me tonight, if you don't get anything out of this talk, understand this: it's food, right? You do get most of your vitamins and minerals, but you're getting them from the plant source, right? The form in which our bodies are meant to recognize and utilize. But like I said, way beyond vitamins and minerals, it's the tens of thousands of plant chemicals that you get from eating things like black currant, bilberry, elderberry. I mean, who goes around eating that stuff every day, right? I don't even know where to buy it. But they're loaded up with flavonoids and carotenoids and all these other plant chemicals that scientists right now, again, are just tapping into the massive health benefits they confer into our bodies. And so this is the big umbrella under which all of the research falls. Multiple studies have shown that Juice Plus will reduce oxidative stress, which we talked about in the beginning, will reduce systemic inflammation and support a healthy immune system, which is really key, especially having gone through this pandemic. Those are 2 big ones. Protects DNA. The research shows it supports cardiovascular wellness and supports healthy skin and gums. The reason I put that list up is that if you think about it, there's not a single pharmacy or drugstore that you could walk into and purchase something, nor is there a prescription that I or any other doctor anywhere in the world that could write for you that in totality would do all those things that I just listed off to your body. It simply doesn't exist. If I could write a script for you, this would be the script I'd write for you. It's like a big salad bar in a capsule, that wide variety of produce that you're putting into your bodies every single day. And what do they say? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So this is the original fruit and veggie powdered concentrate in capsules. This is it. There are tons of copycats out there. Whether you see it on TV channels or you hear it on the radio or in the magazine, you got to know, however, what you're putting in your body. Is it safe? Is it what it says it is? And these are the bottles of Juice Plus, and where I have circled in the arrows, there is a certification called NSF certification. This is a third-party certification where the product is taken to a third-party lab and they test it to make sure that's what's in it is in it, fruits and veggies, and what's not in it. Things like stimulants, steroids, herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, all the whole list, a completely clean product. And if that bottle does not have that certification on it, you cannot be guaranteed what you're putting into your body. Okay, it's that important. Where do they source their produce? Is it from China? Who knows? We don't know. But if it doesn't contain that label, you're taking somebody's word for it, or some TV commercial or some radio show. No, I would rather have that certification knowing it came from a certified lab, and it's an expensive certification. I mean, for all you know, those powdered greens in a capsule from some other company could be ground up grass clippings from some guy's backyard. I'm not kidding. You don't know. And so that's why it's very important to understand, and why this company spent so much money on this certification, because we want people to know what they're getting, fruits and veggies that is completely safe and clean. Okay, and this is kind of a rebranding of a program that's been around the company for years, but it's now called the Healthy Starts for Families. And this is really like the largest children's observational study in the entire world. They've approached some 2 million subjects, and it's amazing that the child, what it is the program that a child anywhere from the age of 4 up to and through a full-time college student can get Juice Plus for free for up to 4 years with an adult sponsor. You just fill out an occasional questionnaire. And the results that are coming back and the kids that have finished the program are amazing. The kids that have finished the program, have far fewer days where they're sick, far fewer days where they're missing school. They're not having to see their pediatrician. And one metric that was not originally in the program, but is now, which is actually pretty cool, is that the kids who enter the program who are addicted to the sugary sweet pop stuff, they enter the program that way, but they exit the program not craving those sugary sweets anymore. They actually exit the program craving fruits and veggies. No kidding. I mean, so, basically their bodies are being nutritionally reprogrammed in a healthy way. So if you're not familiar with this program, please get with a person inviting you, because it's really, really an awesome program. Okay, a couple more products and I'll move into the stories. This is a completely plant-based protein shake mix, the complete shake mix. It's the primary plant protein here is non-GMO, water washed, low processed soy. And you can see on the screen, it's got lots of good fiber, gluten-free, non-dairy, no coloring, low glycemic, and 100% vegan. Now, when I mention the word soy, so many people's antennas go up, right? My doctor says I can't have it because I have a history of breast cancer, or I've got thyroid issues, or whatever it is. I actually did a Zoom a few years ago. It's gotten over 120 some odd thousand views. I actually go into the most current research on soy and receptor status. You can find it on the Juice Plus website. I don't have time to obviously go into that, but the non-GMO water wash soy is completely safe. It's like taking it out of the ground, washing it, stick it in your body. But if there was ever an issue with soy, then why in the world at MD Anderson Cancer Center, one of the leading cancer research institutions in the entire world, if they ever had a problem with it, then why in the world would they use it in a study of their ovarian cancer patients? Okay, that study has already been completed. And the researchers were so impressed with the health outcomes of the arm that was taking Juice Plus that they're now in a second phase 2 study, follow-up study on mortality, which hopefully will be published in the next 3 to 5 years. But again, it's completely safe, and you should check out that Zoom I did. But there's another product that they introduced a couple of years ago, where they basically, it's the Perform and the Juice Plus Perform powder. And it is basically, they doubled the amount of protein, halved the fiber, and it's very light, very tasty. I actually use it before I go to the gym. I've had just unbelievable workouts with it. But again, this doesn't have to be just for athletes. Okay, this is anybody that requires more protein intake. It could be a pregnant mom. It could be somebody going through radiation or chemotherapy. Anybody who needs more protein is not just for athletes. But because there are some people who just can't tolerate soy, the company has just now introduced a non-soy version that's going to be coming out. We're part of the test market, and it tastes really, really good. It substitutes pea protein and some other plant proteins in there to equivocate it. But again, and this is an awesome product as well. Oh yeah, I forgot I'd stick this in there. So this is, I speak to a lot of athletes, both here and in Canada. And, athletes can be tough nuts to crack on this, because they think that plant-based protein is kind of frou-frou, right? That it doesn't really build muscle. But this is a study that was just published last year, where they found out that people who eat a plant-based diet and supplement with soy isolate or soy supplementation, as you can see, it basically supported muscle strength and mass just as equivalent to those who eat an animal-based protein diet and supplement with the dairy-based protein shake mix, like the whey or casein. And those products on the right of your screen are loaded up with all kinds of side effects, bloating, lactose intolerance. I mean, I could go on list and list. So I always tell people, why don't you put clean burning fuel on your left? Okay, that doesn't have those side effects, but gives you the same results. And here's a study that proves that as an animal-based diet as well. So then you can think of Juice Plus as bridging the gap. It bridges the gap between the reality of what we eat every day, whether that was good or not, and a more optimal amount of whole food-based nutrition that provides a rich pool of antioxidants and phytonutrients from which our bodies were designed and knows exactly what to do to contribute to ideal health. But what I think is great is this. For about the price of a cup of coffee, you get up to almost 50 different kinds of plants coursing through your veins every day. Think about that. What's your health worth to you? For about the price of a cup of coffee, you get 50 different kinds of plants coursing through your veins every day, going to every single cell in your body, making you healthy. So this is another one I stuck in here. So Rob Knight is the co-founder of the Earth Microbiome Project, huge microbiome project. And everything today is about the microbiome, right? If you have a healthy gut, you have a happy body, healthy, happy body. And one of the statements that he came out with, and again, it's about the diversity of plants. The single greatest predictor of a healthy gut is the diversity of plants in our diet. It's that rainbow of colors I've been trying to stress, that variety, the reds, the greens, the purples, the yellows. Very important. But there was a study that was just recently published last year, where they looked at how does Juice Plus in the complete, or the capsules in the complete, affect the microbiome. And they found out that by taking the capsules, it increased the short chain fatty acid butyrate significantly. And butyrate is probably one of the most significant short chain fatty acids for a healthy gut. And then when they added in the complete, it also positively impact the gut microbiome as well. So this is a good gut microbiome study, and you're getting, again, the diversity of plants in your diet through these products. Then I want to mention this because this is a great product which actually helped in healing my injury, which you're going to hear here in a minute. This is a completely plant-based omega supplement. So, most of the omegas that you see on the market today derive their polyunsaturated fatty acids, particularly their omega-3s, from fish or krill. But fish or krill actually have to go and eat the algae to make the conversion in our bodies. So the companies like, we'll skip the fish, we'll go to the source. So they harvest most of their omegas, particularly omega-3s, from algae. But they round out the rest of the omega spectrum, the 5, 6, 7, and 9, using the oils from cold pressed seeds, things like from sea buckthorn and pomegranate, safflower, tomato, raspberry. And each of those omegas has a specific beneficial role in human physiology, in improving cognitive function, improving cardiovascular health, decreasing inflammation. The list goes on and on. And, the way you measure the amount of omegas in your body is by measuring something called the omega-3 index. It's just a measurement you can get in your blood. And believe it or not, and this is recent stuff, they're finding out that if you have a low omega-3 index, it is just as dangerous to have a low omega-3 index as it is to smoke cigarettes. The mortality is right there. And I didn't know that. This is all fairly recent stuff within the last probably 3 to 6 months. So it's fairly new. And the omegas now are kind of the equivalent to what vitamin D was, a decade ago. Big stuff. And it's not omega-3 index. To find out what your omega-3 index is, not just something you can walk into LabCorp and order, or Sonora Quest or whatever. There is a test, and Heidi and my wife Heidi and I did this. We just sent it in the other day. It's called the omegaquant.com. You can get this kit. They send it to you. And it's just a little finger prick, little blood spot, send it into the company, and then they will send you back what your index is. Most people in North America have an index either 3 or 4 or below, which is not good. Optimal is between 8 and 12. And so we'll be finding out what ours are. But that's the key, is to get it up to that 8 to 12 range, because that's where really, really good health is for the body. And again, I didn't know this, but this is fairly new stuff. So omegaquant.com. I think it's like $30 for a kit or something. And they send it back to you within about 5 days or so. But we're talking about brain health. And brain health is huge these days. And so what they did a few years ago, did a study, it was just published last year, where they found out that taking the Juice Plus capsules significantly increased cognitive processes like working memory, attention, processing speed. And so you can think of as an increased mental acuity using the capsules. Now, most people know that the omegas are really, really healthy for your head. It's fat in your head, and they're like a tropism for your brain cells. But this study was actually started before the omega was introduced to the company. So you can imagine if the omega is added to the study, what would happen. And believe me, that's going to happen. It may take a while because the company takes a long time to develop really, really good, solid, publishable studies. But that's coming. It'll blow us away, I guarantee it. And then this is our tower garden. I think Mark and Yvonne's tower garden looks a little bit better than that, but this is ours in Florida. And in our Lanai, we just moved to Naples, Florida. And we are growing some incredible stuff. This is just a completely aeroponic, hydroponic, enclosed gardening system. And I don't have a lot of time to go into it. So talk with the person who invited you on this call. But we're growing. You can see there's kale at the top. We've had tomatoes, strawberries, spinach, parsley, oregano. I mean, we grow everything on that. And it's just like plug and play, right? It's just plug and play. We've left ours. We've been gone for a week because I've been lecturing here in Arizona. I'm going back tomorrow, and I guarantee you it'll have doubled in size, no doubt about it. So great. You grow your own produce. It's awesome, especially, when we went through COVID, at least our grocery stores down here were just wiped out of produce. And here we're able to eat right off of our tower. So very, very cool. And then before I get into the stories, I just want to mention this talk, because this talk puts a big bow on my entire talk, or this research, puts an entire bow on my entire talk. And this study was published a few years ago, came out of Australia, randomized double-blind placebo-controlled studies, where they found that compared to the placebo group, the Juice Plus group had a decrease in cholesterol production and a decrease in inflammatory markers. So it's a decrease in cholesterol and an anti-inflammatory study, another anti-inflammatory study. But what they did in this particular study is that the researchers took a snippet of their participants' DNA, and they looked at those switches that I talked about originally, the epigenetic switches. They looked at those switches, and that's depicted here on the right side of the screen, just a few of them. And what they found out is that compared to the placebo group, the Juice Plus group had a favorable modulation of over 1,600 of those genes that had to do, with cholesterol production, that had to do with inflammation. But what was interesting, and the researchers were not looking for this, but I found it when I read the paper, is that some of those switches that were being turned on or off had to do with cancer genes. Okay. Turning off oncogenes, which are cancer genes, turning on, you can see it, turning on tumor suppressor genes. Amazing. So remember in the beginning when I told you that just because great grandma had breast cancer and grandma had breast cancer and mom had breast cancer, it doesn't mean you have to have that breast cancer. Here is your proof. Okay. It doesn't get any more specific than what food is doing to your DNA. We just kind of knew that fruits and veggies were doing this, but this is the first time in my understanding that in a controlled setting, they've actually shown that fruit and veggie powdered concentrates can actually modulate genomic expression. Think about that for a minute, okay? And that is the future of medicine. How, nutrigenomics, how does nutrition affect your DNA? It doesn't get any closer or any more basic than that, okay? And I was waiting for this study for years because I knew it was coming, but I didn't know it was going to be this good. And it's really exciting. So what does this mean for the future? I don't know. But all I know is those switches that are getting turned off and on, if you're engaging in a healthy lifestyle, and then your family does that and your offspring, and they do it, maybe some of those cancer genes that get turned off never come back on again. We don't know, but that's a possibility. It's so exciting. So there's a lot more to come. And that's why I love this company. While other nutritional companies are playing checkers, this company's playing chess. They're always way, way ahead in their thought processes. Okay, my story, a couple stories, and then we'll end it. My story actually starts with the research just because I'm kind of a nerd and I'm kind of wired that way. This study was so impactful that it was actually published in Medicine and Science and Sports and Exercise, which is the top sports medicine journal, one of the top sports medicine journals in the entire world. And it was a study that was done on the Austrian Special Forces Cobra unit, which is, their equivalent to down here, I guess, our Navy SEALs. These are big, rough athletic specimens. And basically it was a 28-week study they did on these athletes, exercising them periodically during this 28-week period. There were two groups in the study. One group of athletes that took the dummy pill, the placebo, depicted in the red bars, and one group of athletes that took Juice Plus, depicted in the green bars. And what the researchers wanted to know was what kind of protein oxidation or damage is occurring in these athletes' bodies as a function of them exercising during this 28-week period. And without going into great detail, what they found out from the beginning of this study on the left at baseline to the final exercise session there on the right at 28 weeks, there was a significant accumulation of these oxidized or damaged proteins circulating around in these athletes' bodies that were not taking Juice Plus, they were taking the dummy pill, the placebo. That's compared to the athletes that were taking Juice Plus. And you can see on the right, they didn't have any accumulation of those oxidized proteins in their bodies. So what does all that science mean for you and me? Well, study after study after study is now making the link between this accumulation of these oxidized proteins in athletes' bodies to overtraining and overreaching syndromes. So you see an athlete, this could be little Johnny going off to soccer or hockey, all the way up to the elite athlete that start off a new season healthy. But as that season progresses and their training starts to get ramped up, they start to get more and more sore, more and more tired, more and more sick, more and more injured, where they're now making the link to this accumulation of these oxidized proteins in athletes' bodies, not only within a particular season, but carryover from one season to the next. I mean, who wants to end up like that person on the floor there? When I talk to athletes, if there was a magic bullet for exercise performance, believe me, we would have found it by now. But this is an edge that I tell my athletes about. This is the edge: quicker recovery, getting all the benefits of an exercise program, yet minimizing the wear and tear that it places on our bodies. And that happens to tie into my story here. So this is my finish at the Ironman World Championships in Hawaii. And there on the upper right side, you can see it took me 10 hours, 10 minutes, and 12 seconds. And everybody knows I joke about that. I will never forget those 12 seconds as long as I live. And so I turned 61 in another month, and somebody told me, it's like, hey, you're at the bottom of your age group. Why don't you go try and qualify and go back to Kona and get a podium spot? I'm like, why? I've already done that once, right? I mean, it's kind of like climbing Mount Everest. You did it. I'm done. But anyway, I actually had a pretty good race. In Hawaii, I finished the race. I went upstairs in a hotel, showered, came downstairs, and then sat at the finishing line watching people finish the race. It's the one you see televised every year. And that wasn't to say that I wasn't sore or tired, because I was. I mean, that's a long nonstop day. But I felt distinctly different in this race versus the year before, when I did Ironman Florida. And I had an absolutely miserable race in Ironman Florida. I was flat, fatigued, and tired going to race day itself, which I now know, based on the previous study, that I had overtrained. I had accumulated all those oxidized proteins in my body. I blew it. Subsequently had a miserable race for about 2 to 3 days after the race. I was so sore I could barely walk. And I think for about a month and a half after the race, I was constantly sick, cough, cold, you name it. But basically my body was trashed. And I hate to admit it, and some of you heard this, I hate to admit it, but at that time, I was taking up to 8 vitamin, mineral, and herbal supplements. I had a concoction of pills and herbs and things that I was putting into my body based on the testimonials, not the research, but the testimonials, of my training partners. Like, well, hey, if it's working for you, I'll take it down the hatch without doing a lick of research. And I know, based on some of the studies I've shown you guys tonight, they were not doing good for me at all. And the only thing that I did differently from that race in Florida to this race a year later was that I was approached by this very attractive and intelligent woman who started engaging me in this conversation about oxidative stress that occurs when you exercise. And I didn't know what that was. Guys, they don't teach doctors about oxidative stress. But she was very insistent that I take these fruits and veggies in capsules. Now, if you're a healthcare provider or healthcare providers, we are very skeptical people. And I was a very skeptical person. What could fruits and veggies and capsules do for me that I wasn't already getting in a heavy plant-based diet? I was practically vegan. But as some of you know the story, I wanted to date that woman. So I took them. And now we're married. Many of you know, she was just in here a little while ago. And the reason I tell this story over and over again, and I speak in front of lots of doctors and lots of high-end athletes, and they can be two of the hardest nuts to crack on this subject. I know, because I'm both. But I knock on myself because it honestly really was difficult for me to kind of wrap my Ivy League doctor brain around something simple as fruits and veggies and capsules. It wasn't complicated enough for me. It was too simple. I mean, I could pronounce everything in a bottle of Juice Plus because it was food. How could fruits and veggies and capsules be as powerful in the human body as some of the prescriptions I was writing for my patients? But honest to God, I took them because I wanted to date her. And so at the time, I was training for Ironman Hawaii, which is like a full-time job. It's like 4 or 5 hours a day training. And I knew my body well. And it wasn't right away, but about a month or two, maybe 3 months, I started to notice some subtle kind of anecdotal testimonial things that were happening to me that in all my years as a collegiate swimmer and triathlete, I'd never noticed before. I was having a lot less muscle and joint pain. I was recovering a lot quicker between my training and racing sessions. And the other thing I noticed, I wasn't getting sick anymore. I just thought it was common for athletes that do a lot of training to get 2 or 3 colds a year. It wasn't happening. And the interesting thing was all my training partners were still suffering from that. So I knew that this is the key. I knew that Juice Plus was filling in the rainbow of colors, the variety that I wasn't getting in a heavy plant-based diet. But being the ever skeptic that I was, I just thought everything was in my head. That was a placebo effect. And that's when I decided to look at the research. And at that time back then, I think there were 15 to 18 studies. Now there's over 40. But 2 of those studies were published in my sports medicine journal, the one I just put up for you guys a couple of slides ago, that I get in my mailbox every month. Are you kidding me? They can study fruits and veggies in capsules with a placebo in humans, not rats, mice, or test tubes, using gold standard protocol, get those kinds of results and then have them accepted and published in one of the top sports medicine journals in the world. Bam, light bulb went on for me, because what happened to me as an athlete was backed by the science. What happened to me as an athlete was backed by the research. That's all I needed. Okay, so this is my injury healing story. When we lived in Phoenix, before I moved to Florida, this is about 5, 6 years ago now. With COVID added another 2 years to my life. That was kind of a blank. So I think it was about 5 years ago. There's a trail behind my house when we lived here in Phoenix that I used to take my bike on. And I was coming home after a ride. I was literally like 2 blocks from my house. And I look up and I was coming around a corner and a truck had cut that corner. So I had nowhere to go. I landed on my right hip, slid up under the truck, thank God it stopped. But I had massive pain in my hip. And so I called Heidi. She came and got me. We went to the hospital and they did a CAT scan on my hip. And it wasn't the ball part, but it was the socket that it goes into. It's called the acetabulum. I don't have the x-ray to show you, but this is basically what my CAT scan of my acetabulum looked like. It was shattered into, they counted roughly 30 fracture lines. And if you're a healthcare provider, the fracture line extended through both the superior and the inferior ramus. So I basically trashed my hip. And so my orthopedist came in, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he was wowed. He goes, in 30 years of practice, I've never seen anybody who has trashed their acetabulum that badly where the pieces don't separate and I have to go in and pin them. So the good news is that I didn't need to have surgery. Yay. But he says the bad news is that with that extensive of an injury, it's going to be a 9 to 12 month recovery with the assistance of a walker. And you guys know I've got ADHD, so there's just no way I'm going to be satisfied with that. So I went home. I was in the hospital for about 3 days, and I went home and I told Heidi, I said, we're not going to change anything that we haven't been doing for the last years. I want to know if the amount of plant powder produce in my body is enough for me is enough to act as a catalyst for me to accelerate healing, bone growth. So we've been taking 4 capsules of each, including the egg on the right, and then we have a shake every day. And you guys, it wasn't 12 months, it wasn't 9 months. Some of you know the story, 3 months. I went back for a repeat CAT scan. I was completely pain-free. I really didn't even need the walker, but you kind of have to because you can incidentally refracture. But I went for a repeat CAT scan. I was sitting on the gurney in the doctor's office, and he came in after looking at the CAT scan. He was like white as a ghost. And he goes, can I see your hip again? I'm like flexing around. I didn't even remember which one was broken. And he goes, man, I thought I CAT scanned the wrong hip. He goes, you're down to maybe 1 or 2 fracture lines out of the 30 some odd. And he goes, and once again, he says, in 30 years of practice, I have never seen that before. I don't have time to go into all the research of why. We've got research to explain exactly why I heal so quickly. But the reason why I tell you guys this story is that plants heal, right? Plants heal. There's not a single aspect of human physiology that's not going to benefit by putting this kind of nutrition in your body, right? For everybody's going to be a unique experience depending on your own physiologic needs. I needed good bony health, good healthy bone growth. I got it. And it's absolutely amazing. Okay, last story, and then we'll be done. So I hope this is inspiring for you. This is my younger brother, Will, on the right. And we believe that my younger brother was born with a heart defect that did not manifest itself until he was in his 40s. He ended up having a massive stroke. in his 40s. And when they got him up to the Mayo Clinic here in Scottsdale, they worked him up and they found out that he had ventricular aneurysm, which is an outpouching of one of the ventricles in your heart. And it caused the blood to clot, and that caused his stroke. So he was in and out of hospitals. Poor guy, he had an implantable defibrillator pacemaker. He's on Coumadin, a whole bag full of medications. And it was about 5-6 years ago, I was doing a version of this talk in South Carolina, and I got a call that my brother had gone into sudden cardiac arrest, and they were coding him. And so I obviously got on a plane, jumped home. They fortunately revived him and got him back to the Mayo Clinic. And when they did the workup on him, it turned out that he was in complete heart failure, and that the only thing that was going to save him was a heart transplant. So there he lay on a bed in the ICU for 3 months, waiting for heart. And unfortunately, one did not show up. And because his heart was not perfusing his organs were beginning to shut down. And it's called multi-system organ failure. And what they do for you at that time is they do open heart surgery. They put a pump in your heart. And that it's called an LVAD, or a left ventricular assist device. And that acts as a bridge to get you to a transplantable heart. Well, that was the next procedure for him, but he wasn't going to have anything to do with it. I mean, I remember walking in the room, he'd been crying. He says, "I'm finished. I am tired of being a pincushion. I made my peace with the Lord. I'm done." And I'm like, "No, you're not. You know, you have a wife to live for. You have a son to live for. And you have a story to tell, right? You have chapters to write in your life. You can't shut the book." So suffice it to say that he went ahead with that procedure. This is him immediately post-op. I know that's a little bit grainy, but I want you to take a look at that IV pole kind of in the middle. You know, I know all those medications. They're called pressors. Dopamine, norepinephrine, dobutamine. I know all those things. I know how they work. I know how to work them. But when you're on the other side of that pole, is either, you know, a patient or a family member, that is a very scary place to be. And I'd never been there before. You know, I've always been the provider. So that was him immediately post-op. And this is my brother, I think it was about 3 weeks after that. So the reason I share this as an ending with you guys in an intimate family story is that, you know, I want you to think about this. You know, my brother really didn't have a choice. He didn't really have a choice between the apple or scalpel. My brother was born with a bad heart. I would dare say that every one of you tonight listening to this call, no matter what your health journey looks like right now, you still have this choice. You have the choice to engage in that on the right and maybe avoid that on the left. You have the choice to engage on that healthy lifestyle and maybe avoid being on multiple medications, or maybe cut down the amount of medications you're on. The choice is yours, and it does not have to be daunting. Okay, it doesn't. So what happened to my brother? Well, about 3 months after that pump was put into his heart, he got the big call for his heart transplant. And that is him. He's over there second from the left with the black Arizona State shirt on. And it's so cool because here's a guy that was going to shut the book. And now he's actively seeking out, with the help of the Mayo Clinic, the family that he got the heart from. You know, this is a full circle story, right? And so we're all celebrating. It was a great, great celebration. And he's living a great life now. It's so great. So the bottom line is, you guys, life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by change. So what will be a simple change for you guys to think about tonight? Well, maybe, you know, it's starting an exercise program, or maybe being more regular with your exercise program. You know, drinking more water, whatever it is you decide to do, please understand, and we have talked a lot about this tonight, that on the left is not a magic bullet. Okay. It is not a magic bullet, but it is health food. It is hope based on science for you. Again, like I said, there's not a single aspect of human physiology that's not going to benefit by putting that kind of nutrition in your body. So this really is, especially post-COVID, we're in a healthy living revolution. We're coming back from this, right? We know what it takes, and who knows if there's going to be another pandemic. We don't know that, but we know how to prepare our bodies for it, right? We know what to do, and we know what the catalyst is, and this is a perfect catalyst. So, you know, I hope you lean up against this information. Think about what this will do for you. Think about what this will do for your families, and then think about the people around you. You can be a beacon of hope for them. There are a lot of hurting people in Canada and the United States. There are a lot of hurting people, and you can be a beacon of hope for them, because just like my brother has a story to tell, so do you, right? But you have chapters to write in your life, but you can't write that big, thick book of life. You can't write many chapters of your life if you don't have your health. So what I offer you tonight is nothing miraculous. What I'm offering you is, again, lots and lots of hope based on science. So I love you guys. Hope to see you person to person someday. And thanks, Yvonne, for having me on.
Oh, David, thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness. There's just so much that you covered tonight, and thank you to your wife for sharing those fruits and vegetables in a capsule, because the skeptic in you is what of course made you curious and wanted to know more. And the way that you have described just the connection between disease and what we have with Juice Plus, and I know we can't make health claims, but you've backed it up by science here. It just makes so much sense. I'm so proud of our company. I've been consuming Juice Plus now for coming up 27 years. I recommend it to everybody that I know and care about. And I want to thank you so much. In Canada here, we're so excited, of course, to have Perform. We don't have Perform yet. We're still waiting for that to go through our natural health product number here in Canada. But when we do, we know that I'm sure I could ask you back to come and share a little bit about Perform with us in the new year once we get it. Would you do that for us, David?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I'm looking forward, because of course you're going to be speaking on Thursday again at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific. And you're going to do this talk again tonight, what you did. And of course, we'll know your jokes more. We'll be able to laugh faster, right?
Right, exactly.
And of course, we're also going to see you then in March at one of our Canadian events that we have here in Beaver Tails and Banff. So looking forward to seeing you and your wife, Heidi. So for those of you here on tonight, thank David, maybe in the messaging there in Q&A, you can send a message to David and say thank you very much. For those of you that are looking at more about how to start your families with Juice Plus, please get back to the person and ask about the Healthy Starts for Families, or you're a little bit more curious, would like to know a little bit more about the Juice Plus product line, please get back to the person that invited you to this webinar. We'd be more than happy to supply information. And of course, this recording we will put out on our partner page, and the person that invited you will be more than happy to give you the recording of this as well. So with that, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Dominica. Thank you to Alain, our French interpreter. And David, thanks to you, and especially to your wife, Heidi. Thank you, everyone. Good night.